Hey, so we're back with another video. This guy name is Max K. He's really into fitness. Don't mind them kissing right there, but he actually goes up to people, asks them for a threesome, and most times they actually end up saying yes. It's crazy. He shows you different tactics for dealing with women, some of the best ways to diet and maintain the diet. Yo, look, this guy freaking is chiseled, man. This whole threesome thing, it was a blast talking to him. He has a lot of haters. People try to get his account banned, but if you're looking, trying to be a ladies' man, you've come to the right place. Check out his links down below and subscribe right quick. You ready here? Just hit the subscribe. It's real nice and easy and simple and free. Come on now.
I'm gonna try every. Yo, I have a question.
Does it look like it's the time for a question?
Yeah, it does.
You have beautiful eyes.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
As to you, look at this fur jacket. You are so stylish. Love the all black. Are you mourning or is it just the look?
Welcome back to another episode of Important Miscellaneous Talks. I am your host, Glassfield Crossfield, and we are changing the world one podcast at a time. Please introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? Max K Fit here. I'm 25 years old. I graduated from Georgetown University about a year ago with my master's in biochemistry, and I'm not even using it.
So, talk a little bit about your upbringing and how you got to the point that you are at today.
All right, so I guess we can say that I grew up in a really strict household. Both of my parents were really strict, especially my dad. But I don't consider that completely to be a negative thing because they pushed me to like work really hard on myself. I was a multi-sport athlete my whole life. Ever since I was like 5 years old, I was doing swimming, baseball, football at 6, and then picked up wrestling in 6th grade, and then dropped baseball and swimming, and then basically did wrestling and football all throughout high school. I had some D1 offers for football, but I actually turned them down because I actually wanted to become a doctor, and that's why I went the biochemistry route. Um, and then I was also a multi-instrument musician growing up too. I was an all-state trumpet player, and I was a concert pianist as well. Um, and yeah, basically my parents held me to a really high standard for everything that I did. And there was always very harsh punishments if I did not perform. So that's basically my upbringing was like that. And same with academics too, obviously.
Interesting. So you're kind of a jack of all trades. I played the trumpet too, but I absolutely hated it. I hate instruments. So
Yeah.
do you ever regret not pursuing the D1 football thing?
For a little bit, I did. But at the end of the day, my mindset has changed in that I don't live life with any regrets anymore. I take everything as like a learning lesson or am I happy with where I am right now? And the answer is yes. So if I would have made that decision, I don't know where my life would be right now. I can't say whether or not I would be happy or not. So as long as I am happy with where I am right now and I'm on an upward trajectory moving forward, I can't say that I have any regrets in my life.
Why did you start making the content that you do?
That is an interesting story. It honestly is because I had nothing else to do, nothing else to make, I should say. I tried everything. I really wanted to get big on TikTok so bad. I tried every type of content I could imagine. I did like thirst traps. I did like normal trends. I tried to do comedy. I tried to do skits. Nothing worked. Everything flopped over and over and over. I even hired some like TikTok guru to try and help me. Didn't work. Well, it worked a little bit. He taught me a lot about how the TikTok algorithm works. Um, but you know, I tried gym content, nothing worked. And then I have a friend, Eric Ronaldo, who I believe you interviewed before in the past. And I had seen him blowing up doing pickup videos. And I was like, well, I can do that too. But I really don't want to do that because that's going to get me a lot more hate than I already have. And I already have way too much hate as it is.
Mm.
Then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Everything else is failing over and over again. So I might as well try it because that's the one thing I haven't tried. And that's like my one talent left in life. So I just went for it. And like the first video just blew up. And I was like, well, what they always say is if you find something that works, you keep doing it. And so I kept doing it and it kept blowing up over and over and over consistently. So that's basically where it's at right now.
So talk a little bit about the hate that you receive and why do you think you receive it?
So, oh man. So the hate started really originally from, I don't know if you've seen the show Love After Lockup, but I started in the recent season of Love During Lockup, which is like part of Love After Lockup. And my portrayal was really, really weird on purpose because that's what they wanted. And, reality TV is all about portrayal, right? Like you can
Hmm.
think that you're acting normal, but the way they cut it up, the way they do the angles, they can really screw with the way you're portrayed. And they really decided to do that with me. They made me look like some weird, super socially awkward, um, lost individual. Basically, I don't know. They made me seem real strange,
Hmm.
and that's me watching it after being on the show and knowing behind the scenes how I actually was. Me watching it afterwards was cringing the whole time. But I did it anyways because they paid me a decent amount and because it was good exposure for my social media. But going back and like watching it, I can see why. I mean, I can't see why people hate me so much from that show, but what I can see is why people were roasting me because it was really weird. Um, but the level of actual hate, like legitimate hatred that I got from that show, is pretty mind-boggling because I didn't actually do anything like controversial or weird at all. Oh, weird! But I never did anything like outrageous or controversial on the show.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't really get it why the hate is there. And then when I came to TikTok with like the pickup videos, my pickup videos are a little different from Eric's, for example, because Eric does like a standard pickup where he goes up, talks to the girl, flirts, gets the number, done. And sometimes he does the interview stuff too. Mine, on the other hand, are a bit more outrageous because I was like, well, he's already killing it in the pickup space. I got to do something different to stand out. So I was like, well, what can I do that is more outrageous, but in the same niche? Well, threesomes. So what I started doing is I
Hmm.
started just going up to random couples and two girls and just people in general, just like, instead of just trying to hit on them, I would just be like, excuse me, would you be interested in a threesome? And shockingly, I got a bunch of yeses just like that. And I was like, well, this is fucking easy. So I kept doing this over and over again, getting all these clips, and they were just going crazy viral. And and I get why some people thought they were staged because honestly, looking back at those videos, I was even shocked how easy it was. I was like, what the hell? They said
Majority of
yes.
them, those two, majority of them are not. Well, none of them seem to be staged, right?
Yeah, none of my videos are ever staged, and I've proven it to people in real life. People in my area, like I'm pretty well known in this area. People run up on me all the time when I'm out filming, like, "Yo, you're the guy from TikTok who does the threesomes." I'm like, "Yeah," and like, "You want to see me film one?" Like, "Yeah," and then so I'll say, "All right, record," and I'll say, "I'm gonna go and do them," and then I'll go and run it on them. It's not always a yes, obviously, but I'll prove it in front of people all the time. People recognize me. If I was staging them, it would be exposed a long time ago because literally every single time I go out on the weekends, people recognize who I am.
What city are you in?
So I live on the border of Washington, D.C. I do most of my filming in the Arlington area and like the Clarendon bars.
Got you. So have some of these threesomes, gone the whole way, or just like a social experiment for you?
So people ask me this all the time, and I've never truly answered it, but I'll answer it here first. I never actually pursue any of the people in my videos because the thing is, when I'm in filming mode, I'm in filming mode. So I'm not actually trying to get laid at all. I'm literally just like filming to get a good clip. I'll say outrageous things that I would never say if I was actually being serious trying to get a girl. I'll say weird stuff, outrageous stuff, funny lines that I would never actually say if I was serious. And they still end up working, which is the funny part. And that's why the clips are so funny. But I'll do that. And then if it's a yes, I'll be like, okay. And there's a couple clips I have where I literally take the girl from a guy and then what I ended up doing, so I don't know if you saw the one where the girl like just like straight up kissed me right on the spot in front of the dude who was trying to get her. And then I was like, "You trying to do a threesome, bro?" He's like, "No." And I was like, "All right, bet, peace." And I just took her away, and we just left. And so what ended up happening is we walked around the building towards. I wasn't gonna take her to my car. I was just walking around the building because I still had to film other clips. I took her around the building. I was like, "Oh shit, wait, I left my keys in the bar. I gotta go get those." She's like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Peace," and then I just like left.
Wow.
So I usually I'll just come up with an excuse because my cameraman's like, he's there filming for me. I can't just like dip on him and go get some girl. So and I have to film other clips. I got to try and get as many as I can that night to last me throughout the week because I try and post multiple times a day.
Mm.
So I'm not actually going after the girls afterwards. I'm just like I'll win and then I'll just ditch them afterwards and then go film another clip. And it is weird because sometimes I see the same girls out while I'm filming other clips and I have to like avoid them because then they're gonna be like that particular girl I just mentioned, actually, the next day I was filming again and she was out again. She was just kind of like staring at me, kind of like following me around for a little bit. My friends were telling me, like, that's the girl. I was like, fuck. But, she never ended up saying anything. But one of my friends tried to talk to her, which is funny and got her number. But yeah, that's,
So,
that's great.
so you've never been intimate with any of the girls' numbers that you gotten?
No, no, because again, I'm just trying to film and then I usually give them a faint number, anyways.
Got you. So where does your confidence and charm come from? Was it something that you had to learn, or is it always something that you had naturally?
It's 100% something I had to learn. So growing up, in psychology, they discuss this all the time, but kids who grow up in a super authoritarian household tend to grow up more socially anxious and with lower self-esteem and lower confidence. That was me growing up.
Interesting.
So I grew up super shy, super social anxiety. Like I couldn't even like order food from a waiter myself. I couldn't even talk to a cashier myself.
Oh.
Yeah, it was that bad. And so when I went to college, and it was about the same time where I started my fitness transformation, I also started working on my social skills. So me and I had a buddy who was like in the same boat as me. We both were super shy, but we wanted to like change that. So we used to go out together all the time and just basically give each other challenges. So it started off where we would just like ask people, like random strangers on the side of the street, like, what's the weather outside? Or like, what's the weather going to be later tonight? Do you know what the weather is? You know, just simple, basic questions that don't mean anything. But for us, that was hard, you know? So we did that, like, what time is it? Do you know? My phone's dead or whatever. And then we graduated eventually to doing like, eventually we would do challenges, right? So I would tell him, you got to do this. If you don't do it, then your penalty challenge is this. And we would just do stuff like that till that became easy. And then we started doing like little mini pranks, which was our famous thing that we used to do back at college was we called it cerealing. We would fill up 2 cereal bowls and walk up to a table of like girls and guys that we didn't even know at all. We would just put the cereal down on the table like we were about to sit down and act like we were about to sit down and then just walk away awkwardly. And so it was both funny and fun, and it was also a challenge to like work on approaching somebody, you know what I mean? And then after that we ended up doing like 2-on-2 like cold approaches with girls. Like me and him would approach a group of girls, and then we started doing solo stuff. So it was like it was a journey, and it took like, you know, a year or two to really get there.
Mm.
Yeah, now I'm here today.
That was gonna be
That was
my
years
next
ago.
question. How long did it take, and how often were you guys? It was just a weekend, 2 days.
No, during college we used to do it all the time, honestly. Not every day, but like, you know, 3 or 4 times a week, honestly. And then when it came to the actual approaching, we would do that more so on the weekends. And then, you know, that was like years ago.
Mm.
And then during COVID, when everything was like locked down and closed and there was nothing to do, and I was just mostly just isolated and stuff, it was just like those skills actually go away over time. And then you have to get them back. It's kind of like a skill. If you don't practice,
Like a muscle.
yeah, it doesn't permanently disappear. It doesn't like completely go. You're still better than you were before, but you got to constantly keep the skills kind of sharp. Otherwise, they deteriorate a little bit. That makes sense.
Got you. So with all the women that you've approached in your lifetime, do you ever still get nervous?
Um, I would say for my first couple, I get a little bit. It's less so nervous about rejection. It's more so nervous about whether I'm going to get a good clip these days. But if I'm actually trying to get girls, I would say again at the very beginning when I first started, and this is without alcohol.
That
With
is
alcohol, I don't care, man. I'll do whatever. But without alcohol, I would say maybe like the first one, I'm a little just kind of like not mentally there yet. I'm just kind of like, all right, whatever, we'll do it. You know, I'll do it. But if I'm recording, I'm a lot more ballsy right off the bat because I'm focused. You know what I mean? And after like the first one, it's just like easy. You know what I mean? It's like a warm up. It's like warming up, just like with working out. You know, once you get the warm up done, it's like, all right, ready to go.
Mhm. Got you. Got you. So what would be your biggest piece of advice for a man who constantly struggles to approach women on a regular basis?
Couple things. So first thing is practice really does make perfect,
Mhm.
like extremely. But I have seen people because I used to actually have people who would like in real life, like before I did social media, who would like ask me for help, and I would like coach them in real life, and we would go out to the bar and I'd help them out. And I would say that like it's hard because some people they'll never really get there, it seems, you know. And I think it has something to do with personality type. Some people are true introverts. Some people are introverts because of their upbringing, but they could have been extroverts. That was me. I was like a basically an extrovert trapped in an introvert's body, if that makes sense. Once I unlocked that, I was like, oh, this feels great, you know. But I've met people who really like I worked with them really hard. You know, I had them rapid fire approaching every single weekend, you know, and they got much better. Don't get me wrong. They started out being completely inept to being able to, you know, be normalish, you know, but they never really got the vibe down, if that makes sense. And you know, would that eventually have come with more time? I still think so because I'm an optimist. And I really do believe that you can pretty much do anything if you work on it long enough. But I never really saw it to fruition in a couple guys that I worked with. The other guys that I worked with, they just fucking transformed, you know.
Mm.
But there's a couple guys who were like super introverts who just really never truly made it there over like a year of working actually hard. Like they were really working hard at it. They really wanted it bad, you know. But again, I don't know
They got
whatever.
better at it though.
They absolutely did, but they never really got to the point where it seemed natural. It still seemed kind of forced, if that makes sense.
Mm. Interesting. Even over a year's time.
Yeah, which surprised me. I thought for sure, like within like 3 or 4 months, they were going to be killing it. But, or there was the one particular guy I'm thinking of. I thought in like 3 or 4 months he was going to be killing it. But because he was working hard, man, like every weekend he would push himself. And even during the week, like when he was walking around, like between lunch breaks at work, he would just approach, you know. And I was like, dude, this guy's going to kill it. He's working hard.
Mm. Wow, that's interesting. I agree with you. I think the human brain is can basically accomplish just about anything. But I think there's a different level, there's a different max level for everyone. I think
Absolutely, yeah.
there's people that can put in 12 hours in the gym and still be mediocre at basketball. They'll still improve, but they might not reach a Kobe Bryant level, which a Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, they put in the same amount of work ethic into what they have going on, and they're the greatest of all time.
Exactly. That's what I was basically getting at. Yeah, it's just like any other skill, you know. There's a genetic component always.
How often would you say beautiful women get approached?
You know, it depends on how beautiful we're talking, right?
Hmm.
So, and it also depends where they are, you know. People think that the 10 out of 10s, the absolute baddies get approached 24/7, and it's actually not the case. They get approached a lot, but not as much as you think, because a lot of guys are actually intimidated to even try.
Or they think that she's always getting approached, so why bother?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're just intimidated to try to like, I mean, she's already got 10 dudes who are probably better than me who are talking to her, so I'm just not even gonna bother. And then there's other places though you go where there's people who are just more confident in general and they just don't give a fuck and they'll just approach anyways. You know, it really depends where you are, the environment you're at. And you know, certain bars have different types of people in them, you know, certain clubs, etc. So it depends on the spot you're at and it depends on, you know, how attractive the girl is basically. And it also depends who she's around, right? Girls in groups tend to get approached less than girls who are by themselves.
Hmm.
But you know, all those things are factors.
So, how often would you say that beautiful women approach you?
Every weekend. Every weekend.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. When I'm
How
not
many? How many on average, of per weekend?
per weekend, I would say per because I'm not always out every like both days each weekend. So per day that I'm out, I would say on average 1 to 2.
Like, if for the Friday Saturday combined, so it's like
No,
okay?
per
Oh,
Friday
per
or per
day.
Saturday. And it does also depend where I'm at too. It depends on which spot I'm at. So there's certain locations where it won't happen, certain locations where it will happen like this. You know, it really depends. And it also depends on who I'm with again. Like if I'm by myself versus if I'm with a group versus if I'm like bouncing from group to group, you know, and it really just depends. You know, it's hard to predict these type of things, but yeah, it always does happen. Well, just about every single time.
What would you say is the number one thing to remember when you are cold approaching?
I would say the number one thing to remember is it depends who I'm talking to, right? If I'm talking to somebody who's shy or low confidence, I would say remember that she's a human person just like you, and the worst thing that could possibly happen is getting rejected, and who cares? Like who cares? You got rejected, great. There's another girl just as hot or hotter right down the street. Go talk to her. Go talk to her. Like there's, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, every rejection helps you more than, I mean, I wouldn't say maybe more, but it helps you just as much as every yes you did because you gain experience and you can look back on what you did wrong.
We know about your cold approach game, but how would you rate your game afterwards? Like the texting game, the dating game, the things you have to deal with women after you get her number.
So texting game actually was, I would say that was my first thing that I really got good at before cold approaching. So that was actually my first specialty.
You should
So
advertise that too.
what was that?
You should advertise that too.
Yeah, so I have a whole like roadmap planned out of how I'm going to build a business around this whole
Got
thing.
you.
Yeah, so we're gonna get there, but but texting was actually my first specialty that I got really good at before cold approaching, and that was because back then all I did was Tinder all day. That's literally all I did, just Tinder, and so that's purely texting. you know, and then I would just set up a Tinder date, meet, hook up, and then just keep doing that all the time. And that was basically my early college days before I did the gauntlet with my friend, where we would just like force ourselves to like improve social skills. But back then, I what was the original question? It was like what tips for
Yeah.
texting?
So how would you rate your texting game and dating game? Basically, the things that you have to do with women after you get the number.
Yeah, so texting, I would say my worst skill is actually dates themselves. But in terms of texting, texting is way up there. That's something I really pride myself in being good at. And then in terms of dates, I wouldn't really consider that as much of a skill as much as, well, I guess you could say going from a date to a poll, that's a skill, you know, because you have to like build your way there. You have to establish humor. You have to establish some physical
Yeah.
touch. You have to flirt. You know, you have to make sure the vibe is there and the chemistry is there. Sure, yeah, that's the thing. But typically back in the Tinder days, I used to like do that all through texting ahead of time. So by the time we met, we already knew we were going to hook up, type of deal. That was always the goal. But yeah, that was always pretty much the goal back then. But if you haven't done that yet, that is a whole thing you have to work on. And it's very similar to pulling at the bar, actually, but a little bit easier because you already have that connection. Instead of going from 0 to 100, you're at like 50 to 100 at that point. So it's a little bit of a light version of what you do at the bar. I wouldn't put it, and I made a video on YouTube recently comparing club game to bar game. Um, I would say dates are a lot more similar to bar game than club game, because bar game is more based on social skills versus club is more based on like physical skills, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. So lost my train of thought. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm not editing this out either.
Yeah,
Gonna keep these raw clips in there, man.
all good.
So when you first started doing this, what was your original goal?
You mean TikTok or what?
I would say cold approaching.
Oh, cold approaching. So honestly, at first it was just to get laid. But then I realized as I got better at that, um, I started realizing that in other aspects of my life, I was becoming way more confident. And my, you know, for example, here's an actual example. So in high school, for example, I was that guy who, when I had to go present like in front of the class, I would turn super red, stutter every other word, hesitate, take forever, basically forget how to read. And then recently, when I graduated with my master's, I actually won best thesis presentation in the program. So that
Nice.
tells you that cold approaching skills are not just for getting laid. Those skills translate to social skills in a professional setting as well. And it's very important, I think, for every guy to do their best in like their cold approach phase so that they can develop social skills for their professional lives as well. Because it really does translate.
What would you say is your goal now?
Right now, my goal is to, it's a complicated question. So I want to build a business around this, right? So because I've been doing this for a while, I've been like coaching guys in person for a while, and with both texting and in-person games. So I've been doing that for a while, and not just with picking up girls, but overall self-improvement, because that's been my whole like brand is self-improvement, right? I started out as like this chubby, socially awkward kid and transformed myself into confident fitness model and pickup artist guy on TikTok, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to
You gotta
create a
write a
whole
book, man.
that
You gotta write a book too about your life.
yeah, I'm gonna be doing all that stuff like ebooks. I'm gonna be doing tutorials. I've already got my YouTube channel set up, but it's like very new, so it hasn't really picked up much traction yet. But there's some good stuff coming there. I do on YouTube. I do some really good like analysis videos on my own approaches, where I'll play my approach, pause, explain why I said what I did, why she reacted the way she did, stuff like that.
It's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, so I'm gonna be putting more of those out. I got like one or two of them currently. I think one so far for day games specifically. I'm gonna do a night game version as well. But so my whole brand is around self-improvement, which has been basically the guiding principle of my entire life since high school. So that's basically the brand I want to promote: self-improvement, build a company around that, build a business around that, and basically inspire people to follow in my footsteps and achieve the best version of themselves possible.
Are you into like the red pill space and the manosphere stuff?
A little bit. You know, I learned a lot from the red pill space back when I was first starting, but I don't really keep up with it. I don't really keep up with like that stuff these days. But I have friends who do, and then oftentimes tell me a lot of stuff I said is pretty congruent with that. So, I'm not against it. I'm not super I'm just not super involved in it. Most of what I've done has been self-taught, to be honest.
Interesting. Okay. How important would you say fitness is to your level of confidence?
I would say that hmm, for me personally, it helped a lot. It helped a lot at the beginning. Um, but I would say that it's not necessary. If you hate lifting, if you hate it, I still recommend to do it. But if you just hate it and and you have that confidence without it, then fuck it. You know what I mean? But if you want to achieve the best results for yourself, if you want to feel better in your own skin, it really does help for a lot of people. Like in fact, I've never met somebody in my life who didn't feel better about themselves after they got in shape. But I have met people who were super, super confident and never worked out a day in their life. So, it goes both ways. But that's a rare breed. When you're born super confident right out the door. Most people have to work their way to that level. And yeah, I would say fitness helps a ton, absolute ton. I recommend any guy to just do the best you can in the gym, lift. Really, it's one of the core principles of self improvement is achieving the best physique you can for yourself. And I think it was Socrates who said like it's a shame when people don't achieve the beauty and aesthetics that their body's capable. I don't remember the quote exactly, but
Mhm.
it's been a thing for a long time. Like men achieving their best selves physically and mentally. Um, and socially. And financially. That's what it's all about.
Facts. So for someone trying to become the next Max K, what do you suggest? What should be the first step that he does?
Research, 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 research. I
Mm.
come from a science background. All I did with my spare time during my transformation was learning. Might cut out.
No, I can hear you.
Yeah, it went silent for a second. But all I did at the beginning was just learning about everything I could, ranging from fitness, which was the biggest one, because fitness is like the training is one part, but the diet is a whole nother, and the diet's a lot more complicated than training, but the training could be made complicated. If you really want to optimize, you got to dig deep into the training aspects too. But I would say for a beginner, diet is more important than training, because when you're at the beginning stages, you can pretty much do just about anything and make gains. When you're the newbie gains phase, you can do pretty much anything and make gains, but the diet is really what dictates the body composition, how you look, the body fat to muscle mass ratio. But research is the number one thing I would say. Learn as much as you can about as many different aspects of personal improvement as you can. Learn about social skills, and the beginning of my knowledge on learning about social skills, interacting with women and interacting with people in general, came from places like 48 Laws of Power, Red Pill stuff like that. That's where the beginning came from. That was my foundation. Then I started experimenting, trying different things out, and then learning from there. And then based on how my results would do, I would modify my approach, try different things. And I would also compare things with other friends of mine who were doing the same thing. So stuff like that. And then, so learn about social skills, learn about fitness and diet, nutrition, because also, by the way, diet and nutrition doesn't just help you physically look good. It also helps you perform well. If you're micronutrient deficient, if you're lacking all your vitamins and minerals, if you are just like malnourished, you're not going to perform as well socially. You're not going to perform as well mentally. You're not going to be as sharp. So diet and nutrition plays a role in everything, basically, at the end of the day. You're also not going to look as good. Your hair is not going to look as good. Your skin is not going to look good. Everything's just based on diet and nutrition at the end of the day. Optimizing that and sleep quality, stuff like that. And then also, the last one was also stuff like skincare, anti-aging, maximizing your aesthetics as well, your looks, not just your physique, but also taking care of yourself, hygiene, skincare, stuff like that. And then lastly, also fashion too. Girls care about that. Okay. People think like, oh, dude, I'm jacked. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, that helps. But if you're jacked and well dressed, that helps more. You know what I mean? If your clothes fit well, they're fashionable, and you're jacked, it's a lot better than the guy who shows up at the bar in a tank top. You know what I mean? So all that kind of stuff. Learn about as many things as you possibly can relating to self-improvement. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You cannot possibly learn everything you need to know in a month. It's not possible. It takes years, but realize that throughout the years, it's a constant upward trend, and you're going to constantly be improving. And just work to improve each and every day. That's the thing. Learn something new each and every day and implement it into your life to improve.
Do you still still focus on a lot of research and read up on things and watch things to self improve still to this day?
I do all the time. So right now I'm focused most on entrepreneurship, crypto, finance, stuff like that. because financially is also one of the big pillars of self-improvement, improving your financial status. And that's why I'm trying to build a huge business around this whole thing. And that's why I'm working so hard on social media. And that's the other thing. Social media is part of the business. I spend a lot of my time now learning about how the algorithms work, how to optimize like watch time, how to hook people into the videos, stuff like that. And it's slightly different on every single platform, ranging from TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, etc. They're all slightly different in how their algorithms can be optimized to bring in an audience. So working on that, learning a little bit about website design, because I'm going to launch a website. I already bought the domain. I just have to find out which platform to use, and then marketing, stuff like that. And then I'm also, I'm constantly still learning about new things that come out in terms of the diet world, supplement world, all the stuff like that. Constantly, to this day, I mean, people ask me what's your hobbies? My hobbies are learning, literally just learning. That's what I do in my spare time. Whenever I'm eating food, I'm just watching videos on social media, marketing, crypto investing, stuff like that.
How do you stay so consistent with nutrition and diet?
That's a good question. So people do ask me this one also, because most people just, they yo-yo diet, right? And I started out doing the same thing. I was big into dirty bulk and then extreme cut, dirty bulk, extreme cut. It was just not the way to live, honestly, because half the year you look like crap, half the year you look shredded, but you're a little bit skinny at the same time because you lost a lot of that muscle that you thought you put on during the dirty bulk, but it was actually fat and water. So that's where I came from. That's where most people came from. In terms of consistency, I made a video actually, and I'm actually releasing part 2 today, probably tonight. It was about how I diet to stay lean year round. And basically, there's 2 parts of it. There's one, which is the mental aspect, which is the self-discipline. What I like to say is motivation is temporary, self-discipline lasts forever. Okay, so motivation is great at the beginning, but it will run out. You will not be motivated forever. Self-discipline is what lasts forever and what you follow for the rest of your life, So create habits and turn it into self-discipline, I would say. That number 2 would be smart diet practices, smart diet approaches. And this is all based on substitution of foods. And that's what I call it. And that's what I go over a lot in my first part 1 video, my diet video. Part 2 also, I have a little bit of stuff about that, but it's more about strategy versus part 1, which is more about more concrete things, which if you see the videos, it'll make more sense. But substitutions are things like taking foods that you like and making them lower calorie, higher protein alternatives. So here's a big example, right? Let's think of a good example that I do. So, I love rice, right? Rice is my favorite base for most of my meals, but instead of eating rice, I'll have quinoa, which is also, it's similar. It tastes a little different, but it's still a base. I'll throw in quinoa. I can eat twice as much quinoa, half the calories practically, higher in protein, lower in simple carbs. It's also the carbs that are in quinoa are complex carbs rather than simple carbs. Complex carbs digest slower and have less of an insulinogenic response. Therefore, you're going to hold less water and fat as a result. Now, at the end of the day, calories in, calories out is the most important aspect in terms of fat gain versus fat loss. But we can tweak that to be more optimal or less optimal based on the types of foods that we're eating, right? So by focusing on complex carbs, lower calorie alternatives to the foods that I most often would eat or would like to eat, I can eat more volume. Here's another one, watermelon. Watermelon is a big staple in my diet because watermelon has literally so few calories in it. You could literally eat watermelon all day and stuff yourself and literally just lose weight because it's literally all water almost. There's a little bit of sugars in there, but not that much. It's practically all water. So whenever I'm dieting, if I'm trying to get really shredded for a photo shoot or something, I'll just eat shit tons of watermelon every single day. And it'll keep me hydrated, but I won't be eating a lot of calories. So it'll allow me to feel full, but not gain. In fact, I'll lose a ton of fat in the process, Another one is bread, sandwiches, right? People eat sandwiches all the time. If you go to the grocery store and you look at breads, you'll see a slice of bread. You'll see a loaf of bread that has slices that are 120 calories per slice. Okay. The bread that I have in my fridge, 40 calories per slice, same size, same taste.
What bread is that?
I'll grab it right now.
Heck. What? I did not know bread came with that many calories. I didn't even look. I gotta start looking on the back of my joints, the nutrition facts.
Right here. This stuff.
What's the brand?
This is it. Yep. This is what it looks like on the shelf.
Got you.
40 calories per slice. So literally, think about that. You could have like
That's a
3 of those.
third. That's a third of the calories. Wow, that's big.
For one slice. And then, with your beef, there's 96% lean ground beef. I have that instead of the typical 80-20. That's a huge dramatically drop in calories, because fats are like 8 or 9 calories per gram of fat versus protein, which is 4, carbs, which are 4. So if you're having like 80-20 beef, that's a hell of a lot more calories than 96-4 beef. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, sure, it won't taste quite as good, but that's what seasoning is for. You know what I mean? That's what seasoning is for. Walden Farms dressings and sauces. There's a company called Walden Farms that makes dressings and sauces that are all 0 calories, which is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I use those on all my foods. Another one is like, what's another hack? There's a lot of them like that. Then artificial sweeteners in your coffee instead of sugar, for example, like Splenda or whatever. That shit works, man. Like, there are no calories in there. And almond milk. Here's another almond milk. The almond milk I have is 30 calories per cup. I use that as a creamer in my coffee because I drink a lot of coffee. I'm addicted to coffee. I use that as a creamer in my coffee. I use that in protein shakes sometimes. Milk is like what? I think like 100 and something, depending on if you're getting whole milk or skim milk. But either way, there's only one type of milk out there that's slightly lower in calories than almond milk, and I've been searching for a long time. I've tried everything. There's only one type of milk that's slightly lower in calories than the almond milk that I use, and that's cashew milk, which is 25 calories per cup, but like 5 calories. And cashew milk comes in like small little things where I can get a big ass gallon jug of almond milk, and it's more worth it for me for like time, because I don't want to fill up my fridge with a bunch of tiny little cashew nuts for 5 calories extra. But you know what I mean? It's all the whole point is that it's about substituting things with things that are lower calorie versions. That way you can eat more and still lose weight and not be hungry. That's what it's all about.
So how did you get to this level of discipline?
Honestly, results. Results is what did it for me. So starting off the bat, I was motivated at first, because I saw, these guys who were like jacked and handsome pulling all the girls, and meanwhile I was, chubby and insecure, and I was like, was dry, so I was like, I'd like to change that. So started, and luckily, in fitness, everybody knows genetics does play a role with how fast you get results. Okay. Luckily, I had good genetics, and I made results really fast in the gym. Like, as soon as I started hitting the weights, I had a bicep gain within like a month, maybe even sooner, so stuff started happening fast. And then I started noticing how people started treating me different really quick. I was like, whoa, this is cool. This is really cool. And so people wanted to be my friend more. I got more attention from women. Everything was starting to be better. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Let me keep going. And I kept going. And I started learning about skincare, started learning about fashion. And then I did the social skills stuff I was talking about. And before I knew it, like, my life had changed before my eyes, and I barely even knew the old version of me, and I had way more friends. I had, way more girlfriends, and, just my mentality just changed. I was just a more happy person overall, and more confident, more outgoing, and just, I would say, just results. Once I saw what results were capable, I just wanted to keep going and see how far can I push this? How ridiculous can my results be? And then I just formed everything into habits, because I was like, all right, I've gotten to this point. I don't want to lose it. I want to go forward, or at least stay the same, but I want to go forward. So it's all about habit formation at that point, turning it into a lifestyle formed around habits. And that's where it is now. I have routines that I follow. Everything's basically a habit and a routine that I follow at this point.
Well, what time do you wake up in the morning?
So that's the one thing. So people always like, you must wake up at like 6 a.m. and have like this, like, no, I wake up late because I stay up late. Because I stay up late editing videos all the time, like whether it's like the TikToks from like going out, to the bars, or my YouTube content. I stay up late editing because I haven't hired editors yet, because I'm going to hire editors once the YouTube channel audience justifies it. Because right now the YouTube audience is very small because I just started it. But once the channel starts popping, then I'm just going to hire editors and then like actually sleep, because I don't sleep a lot. I sleep like 5-6 hours a night now. I used to make a point of sleeping minimum 8 hours every single day. That was part of my journey, was like being super rigorous about sleep schedule. Nowadays, I'm grinding social media super hard, trying to like build this thing, so I'm only sleeping 5 or 6 hours because I'm editing all the time. I'm filming, filming TikToks, filming YouTube, just doing all sorts of stuff, trying to contact people for collabs, etc. So I'm not sleeping enough as I should be, but of course I still have to hit the gym, still got to do my cardio as often as I can. So, that my sleep is my Achilles heel at this point. But, eventually once I put in enough work and get the YouTube going, then I can go back to sleeping, and then I can hire editors to help me with that. But so I end up staying up super late, and then I wake up like noon usually. Today I woke up at 11, sometimes 10, anywhere from 10 to 12 is usually when I wake up, and I usually go to sleep at like anywhere from, I don't know, if it's a really good night, I'll go to bed at 4, but usually 5, 6, 7. Realistic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So if you weren't in the digital content creation space, what would you be doing?
Probably be a doctor.
Wow. Oh, so when you got your master's, how soon after that did you realize, okay, I don't want to use this?
During it. It's because I love science. I love biochemistry. So in undergrad, I did bio major, chem minor, and I did a second minor in neuroscience. And then when I went to Georgetown for my master's, I did biochemistry, was my master's. And then I love the field. I love science. However, the conditions kind of suck working in a lab, right? And I wasn't intending to do so. How do I put this? So in undergrad, I 100% wanted to be a doctor. During my master's degree, I was kind of 50-50 between doctor or researcher. And then at one point I'd settled on maybe doing an MD PhD combined program, doing both basically. And then throughout that, I decided, I was like, I've been in school my whole damn life. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of it. I've been in labs my whole damn life. I'm tired of that too, and don't get me wrong. Yeah, I love science. I love the field. I love doing science, but it's just that lab work kind of sucks. And I wasn't really vibing with my coworkers that much. I'm a social person now, and most of them are very not social. I would constantly like hit people like, yo, let's go out and party this weekend. Let's go do this. Let's do that. Like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just stay home. I'm like, and then we'd be in the lab working, and I'd try to start conversations, and they'd just like mumble something. And I'm like, I want to like have a conversation here. I want to like a social environment, like this is dead, And not only that, but think labs are really, really cramped. These biochemistry labs, they're really small. And I'm a large person. Okay. I'm 6'3", like 240, between 240 to 245 pounds. I don't fit. Okay. Everybody else is like 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", like 120, 130 pounds. I'm like this giant dude stuck in this tiny little lab where I have to like, between the shelves, I have to like scoot sideways to like fit anywhere, and my elbows are bumping into like glassware and shit. And I'm just like, this ain't working. This ain't working, and yeah, and they're always like super hot, and like the high temperature from all the equipment and all the people in close proximity, and like hot plates, like open flames over here heating the substance, and this over here, and I didn't like being cramped in a tiny space, sweating all day with a bunch of people who don't want to talk to me. It just wasn't my vibe, and so I was like, I got to get out of this. And then similar with like the whole doctor thing, every doctor I ever met, with the exception of a couple, told me, don't do it. You're going to hate it. And I was like, that's a bad sign. That's a real bad sign. And, there was a couple who said, I love my job. And I was like, okay, well, that's good news. But being the stubborn person I was like, nah, well, you may hate your job, but I'm going to love your job. Let's see. You'll see. But, eventually I was like, logically speaking, if this many doctors hate their life, that's probably not a good sign, and ultimately at the end of the day, I wanted to be a doctor, not because I really wanted to like, I didn't want to really interact with patients that much, not because I hate people, because I love talking to people, but the patients that doctors see on a daily basis are oftentimes very rude, very entitled, pissed off people, which, you can understand it to an extent because they're sick. Nobody's happy when they're sick. And they want the doctor to make it go away. And when the doctor can't make it go away, because doctors are not magic, They get pissed off and they take it out on the doctor. And I don't want to be somebody's emotional punching bag every damn day. I don't. So I was actually I was planning to go into surgery, right? But then I was looking at the timeline and I was like, okay, so let's say I want to become at the time I was looking into neurosurgery, and I was like, okay, let's look at the timeline. Okay. I go to medical school after my master's, 4 years, residency, 6 years, fellowship, 2 to 4 years. And now I'm a doctor. How old am I? You know what I mean? I'm in my 30s now. I've lost my whole childhood.
Yeah, you don't see young, spry doctors for sure. You don't.
Yeah, it's like by the time I'm actually gonna have my career set, I'm gonna be like almost middle-aged. I've lost my whole young adulthood. I've lost it all. Because guess what? I'm not gonna be able to have fun when I'm in medical school. I'm gonna be studying all day. When I'm in residency, even worse. Fellowship, a little bit less, but still, I'm not gonna be able to have much fun. I'm not gonna be able to live the life that I wanted to live. So I'd rather create the life I want to live for myself. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Got you. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
For sure. My pleasure.
Oh, boy.